Police Minister Bheki Cele released the crime statistics for Q1 of 2023, covering the period April to June of this year. While there was a 2% decrease in sexual crimes and 196 fewer murders compared to the same quarter last year, the minister says many of the murders were women, children and police officers. Attempted murder, common assault and robbery increased. Tshwane University of Technology Head of Safety and Security, Professor Khulufelo Rakubu, weighs in, joining us this morning. A very good morning to you, Professor. Thank you so much for your time. I mean, mixed emotions around these crime statistics, violent crimes going up, murder up by 3.1%, sexual offences down by, down slightly by 3.1%, sexual offences also down very slightly by 2%. This decrease compared to previous months, what should we make of it? I mean, how do we begin to assess what these numbers really mean?
Good morning and thank you for having me. What we make of this, it's a very difficult one because once they mention a decline, we tap into that decline to analyze multiple factors that could have led to that decline. Is it because of the efforts from the police side, or is it efforts from the community side, or there has been an improvement in the police-community relation, or the victims decided not to report because of what? Challenges previously highlighted with the ill treatment, the re-victimization, and the process tracking and lack of support from families and communities and so forth. So it does not tell of a beautiful story because it's a 2%, particularly in rape. Yeah. So that might be that someone decided not to go and report because we still have hanging trust issues between the police and the communities. So someone might have taken a decision, or a docket might have gotten missing, might have been lost or something, or the process got derailed to an extent that the victim withdrew. So it doesn't really say much. So we still need an analysis into what has been adopted, what has been applied, what has been implemented since the last quarter compared to now, this quarter. And what is working and what is not working, because from these increases or decreases, going further, we cannot be told or informed of any increase, because we believe what? The minute you're saying there's an increase or decrease, you should also specify what has been a remedy, so that we see to it that, okay, can it be adopted? Is it working or not? Then the increase in attempted murders and so forth. South Africa is a violent country, and so much still needs to be done. So the current statistics doesn't reflect much on the strategies or resolutions taken with regard to crime prevention or control or ensuring community safety. So a lot still needs to be done. And again, I think South Africa now is getting tired of the numbers. Yeah. What we should focus on is the solution. What has been, what is the fact is that it's a violent country. There's crime on a daily basis. Now, can we now divert to, this is a solution besides statistics? Can you come up with a strategy for the 21st century crime in South Africa? Because the crime has evolved tremendously. We're now talking of availability of illegal firearms. We're now talking of shootings between law enforcement and undocumented immigrants. So things have changed. If you analyze thoroughly, you'll realize that criminals in South Africa are a few steps ahead of the law enforcement and the intelligence. So much has to be done. And again, I don't know if law enforcement is ready for reform, because the current crime level tells us that we need an urgent reform, because the previous policing or the current policing, what it had in mind is an offender that will run after when the law enforcement approaches. But now we're dealing with an offender that plans in the midst of law enforcers. So certain aspects need to be amended urgently.
Yeah, Professor, you make a very important point, which I'd like for us to touch on in just a moment as we scrutinize what these statistics have unveiled when it comes to police officers on the ground. But let's talk a little bit about the murder of women and children. You speak about how will we remedy the problem, what are the solutions on the table. Violence against women is like a second pandemic. Those were the words of President Cyril Ramaphosa, likening the importance of the solutions that need to come to the table, but we haven't seen many of the solutions. It seems that they are not effective because between April and June of this year, 895 women were murdered, 40 more women around the same period last year. And then when it comes to children, 293 children, which is 50 more than the previous year. In fact, the really concerning part, maybe disappointing, disheartening, is that the big numbers are also coming from educational facilities. When it comes to rape and murder of children, we're seeing an increase in the spaces that we deem safe for children. What is the solution around here? I mean, how do we begin to analyze this when it comes to the increase and the focus on gender-based violence? What is it telling us?
It tells us that we're not winning the battle, and the plans have not been successful. And in that, remember with the GBVF, or gender-based violence and femicide, we also dealing, I don't know if the solutions had patriarchal issues in mind, because you cannot come up with a solution that does not have issues of tradition, customs, culture, ignorance in mind. Because what should be done is to tap deep into those. You can have a beautiful strategy, but the minute it does not talk to long-standing patriarchal issues, community relation, tradition and religion, we're not going to win the battle. Then with educational facilities, here we want to also highlight the fact what most institutions that are supposed to secure communities or provide safety do not have community dynamics in mind. This I'm saying because if you check off educational facilities, you find that a school to date doesn't even have a safety plan or thorough analysis of its employees. Now, that is why we have children or women exposed to perpetrators that are in the system. So the minute now the planning does not have in mind the nature and extent or the kind of employees or staff we have around children, that is the problem. It is not only schools, even universities. We receive students that are already scarred from these communities that have patriarchal issues, that don't attend to issues of gender-based violence. Now, when they come to universities, they expose themselves again and they don't report. And again, this is just a commotion. When they report, they are now going to be attended to by a police officer who has not been thoroughly vetted, who's in the system and is also an abuser. That is why we get to hear of cases where they are told to go back, or there's no desire, willingness to even assist to greater extent. So with educational facilities, a safety plan is required, thorough vetting is required, and now communities should work together with all facilities, because like I said, we receive students at the universities that are already scarred, that will also victimize others, and that also will be subjected to re-victimization, because certain processes and exposures will just automatically direct to re-victimization.
Professor, perhaps allow me to interrupt you there, pardon me, because we're shortly running out of time. Police killings, one officer killed every 3 days in the last quarter. That's what these statistics have come down to. What does this now say about our society and respecting the rule of law? Is lawlessness becoming a norm? I mean, you made that example about what transpired between Zamazamas and police officers.
Definitely, lawlessness has become a norm in South Africa. That is why I even said maybe there's need for now for paradigm shift and talk about agent reform, which will have in mind what an offender that will automatically fight back. And now policing is more dangerous than it has ever been. But the challenge is what? I don't think policing is on par with the level and the norm of lawlessness. They tap into communities thinking they are policing communities in the 1994. This is the community that has culture of violence and will not think twice before they even shoot or fight with the police. So a lot needs to be done. So a police officer, they are killed by the very same, in other cases, very same pool of illegal firearms that are in the country. Some are also killed because what they are vulnerable because they work with corrupt officers that would also expose them or share information with regard to the investigation. So it's just a debacle, and that suggests what policing is not safe. They also need to be safe. However, they are policing in a very volatile space, a violent community, and their strategies are backwards. Their strategies should be 9 steps ahead of perpetrators in South Africa due to what? Multiple aspects. You can talk of zamazamas, you can talk of violent protests, you can talk of level of GBV and femicide. So we're dealing with what? Violent communities and volatile communities, and therefore a need to be changed. A lot needs to be changed.
Yes. Certainly more proactive rather than reactive policing strategies needed here. Thank you so much for your time and weighing in on this discussion. Tshwane University of Technology Head of Safety and Security, Professor Khulufelo Rakubu.